What's up, guys? We are back with another Super 7 Ultimates G.I. Joe Wave 1 review, wrapping up this wave with the figure that I've already sort of taken a look at to a degree because we looked at the SDCC comic version of the COBRA Bat. Now this is the regular one. So this guy comes in our standard Ultimate style packaging, standard shape, standard size for the Joes this time around. So you've got the sort of foiled, very foiled, COBRA style packaging for the bad guy. So you get blue camo patterning with the COBRA logo on the front, and then you've got the Joe logo stamped there on the back. Pop that slipcover off and you've got your Bat there in the big window with all of his accessories, Joe logo up top, dog tag nameplate down on the bottom, and then the back of these boxes give us like a computer screen sort of mainframe readout for this particular figure, this particular character with a bio, and then some animation shots of our Bat on the screens below. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Ultimates COBRA Bat, taking us back to something that we've, kind of looked at before because we had that SDCC exclusive comic version. This is obviously very different visually. There's some different things in the package, but they're built on the same kind of base body. So that's why I'm taking a look at him last too. Now, as far as moving him around, he is pretty much exactly the same as that comic version. So if you've got that, you kind of know what to expect. But for the uninitiated, we are of course going to run through it. So we've got a head that can look up a little bit. He can look down really, really good. Tilt side to side a little, and then you've got your rotation. Arms go out at the shoulder, swivel. You do have a bicep swivel. We've got a single jointed elbow, of course, and there is some rotation there also. These guys have swappable forearms, so you do have swivel there as well, but you still have like your normal wrist rotation and hinge as well. So none of that changes just because they have those swappable parts. The torso does have a ball peg waist. It's not the greatest range. This kind of seemed at the time when I looked at the comic version that they might be sort of toying around with the idea of just doing ball peg waist, and we've certainly seen more of that. Some better ones as well, but he has a little bit of shimmy, not much side to side, and then it is also your swivel point. It's not the greatest because it doesn't have all that range, but it kind of made me think that we might be going down this road, and we have seen that a little bit with Ultimates. Now, as far as the legs, they go out only about this far. This leg is going to get stopped because of this holster. It goes forward all the way, and you've got nothing backwards. There is a thigh twist there. It's hidden really, really, really well. You've got your single jointed knee. There is no swivel at this knee, because you don't really need it anyway because you've got actual boot cut. And then we've got a hinge with pretty good range and a really, really good rocker down here at these ankles. Like that's about as good as it's going to get, I think, right? So these guys move pretty well. They're in many ways very par for the course with Ultimates, but I do think they move a little bit better in some ways than others. Something about them just seems a little bit more fluid. Everything seems to be, for the most part, right where it needs to be in order to make these guys move. I just wish, like usual, I wish that the ball peg waist that we had here just had at least a slight bit more range just to get some sort of actual crunch going. Now, visually, I think these guys look terrific. I really like the bat design in general for Joes. I mean, I think that's kind of a universal constant, right? Bats look cool. And that's pretty much translated nicely here. Of course, this is the cartoon version, but it's still very reminiscent of an actual bat. I really like the colors. The black and the yellow absolutely pop. We've got really nice metallic for the boots, for the gauntlets, and then of course for the hands as well. And then there's some other silver accents across the figure. The piping around the chest window, you've got sort of like the collar that's also really metallic, the belt buckle as well. There is a decent bit of paint on this figure too. I'd say there's more paint on this guy than average for an Ultimates figure. Front and back, there are a lot of things that need to be painted just because we've got colors that sort of clash on the same kind of part. So you've got silvers, you've got some blacks that are painted, you've got a lot of yellow paints here. The yellow is okay. The shoulder pads in particular, they look a little, I don't know, a little choppy to me, but for the most part, I think he does look really good. Overall, I think the design is just cool and it translates into figure form really nicely. I mean, whether we're talking Vintage Joes, Classified Series, Reaction, and here in particular, I really like this particular interpretation of them. This is definitely one that it's going to be hard to resist army building just because a handful of these is going to look cool, and I've already got a couple that we'll see throughout the video, but I'm very, very happy with this. Again, I really liked the comic version. I really liked the comic version, and this is just, more of the same, but in a different way, right? It still has the chest plate, and it's got the nicely hidden sort of, handle so you can pry the window off the chest, which is hidden underneath the strap. I just like the fact that it's hidden so you don't have to see it, and you can see all of his cyborg guts in there, the robo guts with the port for the effect piece. You've got your holster, so you do have some weapon storage on them. Of course, you're going to have the ports on the shoulders for the backpack that we'll talk about when we get to accessories, because it's not a bat without a bunch of doodads hanging off of his back. And then you've got your head sculpt up here, which, I mean, I really like this one. The head on the comic version is slightly different. Something about the black with this red visor. It looks super, super evil. It looks more evil than the comic version for sure. And it works really well. It's a huge shock of red in a sea of black and yellow. So it's definitely going to draw your attention. And of course, you know, a red visor on this guy, it makes him look like a bad guy. So it looks really great. The paint is really clean up there as well. And I'm really happy with the visuals on this figure. I think overwhelmingly, the coolness of the Bat in the cartoon form has been translated really, really nicely into figure form here. Paint is, for the most part, really clean. The sculpt is good. I like the sizing on these guys. I've kind of harped on the fact that the Joes, in particular, seem to be a little big. Something about this guy being a little big doesn't bother me as much, because he's like a Robo Man. He doesn't have to be, you know, a normal person. So I'm happy with the way they turned out. And then, of course, alongside a few of these, or, you know, mix them in with your comic bats, it's going to make for a really imposing and menacing looking display. Now for some size comparisons, let's start with a few other Ultimates, some other Joes. So we've got Cobra Commander here on the left. They're very similar. They match up just fine. We've got the SDCC Bat here on the right, and they're very similar, obviously, in terms of build, height. They're basically the same. The big differences between these two are going to come down to different head sculpts, different forearm and hand sculpts, because they do not have the same detailing. And then, of course, a jarringly different color scheme, but they're going to mesh just fine if you want to have a group of all of them combined. Let's move this guy aside, and here is a Figuart. So here is Superhero Piccolo. And then let's pull Cobra Commander aside, and here's a Mythic Legion, so here's a Xylernian Guard. And I think this really shows exactly how big these guys are. The Joe line, I'm still going to say it, I think it's slightly on the tall side, even for Ultimates, because he kind of towers over this guard, which is fine. He's a big robot guy. It's not necessarily a big deal, but I think it highlights things a little bit better. And then one more. Let's do a Hasbro figure. And it, of course, has to be the classified Bat. There's no real reason to compare them in terms of height. One is obviously going to be bigger, but I think they might look okay together if you want to kind of mix and match. You've got a Mega Bat here if you want to put them in a sea of classified bats. Thematically, very, very similar, obviously, but the execution is just different across the board. So this guy, I think he's going to be fine among other Joes. He might look a little tall compared to other lines and other Ultimates in particular, but he seems to be right in the same sweet spot that the Joes seem to be going. Now, as far as accessories goes, just like the rest of this wave, this line, the Bat is pretty well stacked. And this figure, though, is a little bit different in terms of what you're getting, because a lot of the accessories for the Bat are meant to actually augment the figure or change up how you display it because of, all the robotic attachments and everything. So to start with, we do get an extra head, and this is the battle damaged head. So you can see it's got a cracked visor, and then you've got an entirely different sculpt. You've got like the cyborg, insides showing there. So you've got the whatever's underneath it, the metal alloy inside, and it's got that energy effect that is sticking out. So it's like a, sparking electricity shooting out the visor on this thing. I really like this. This is not removable, or at least doesn't seem to be easily. It is definitely in there. And then to go along with that, you do get a removable piece that pegs into the chest. Like I mentioned, earlier, you can take that plastic panel off, showcasing the cyborg guts within, and there's a hole there for that one to go in, so you can have it sort of sparking and blowing up in many different fun ways. We do get some extra hands with this guy as well. You get a set of fists, and we get a set of vertically hinged trigger finger hands. I swear, and I haven't really gone through to check, but I swear the comic version had 2 sets of trigger finger hands. This one does not. It's not really a huge deal. I would only use the vertical ones anyway, in addition to the sort of relaxed style posy hands that you've got there. We do also get this. I mean, this counts as another hand, but I'm not really sure what the point of this is. Like, you can't use it with the Bat because it just doesn't work. Like, in terms of continuity of what's going on, like, it doesn't work. It's the entire lower arm. So this is obviously something to give to somebody else, to bash a Bat over the head with his own arm or whatever. So it's kind of cool. I don't know how I'm going to incorporate it into what I do, but it is a pretty cool idea, and it's it's always fun to get accessories for other figures. We also get a replacement neck. So the heads have necks that are built in. So it's a replacement neck and head for all of it. And this one is just if the head has been completely blown off and all you've got is electricity and sparks shooting out of the neck. So if you want a fully dead bat, this is going to be the way to go. And then we also get, of course, you know, the ever-present bat backpack. So this sits on the shoulder pads. You do have to sort of like spread these sort of prongs apart. I feel like they're not sized correctly. You have to kind of spread them apart to make them fit in there. I don't feel like it's going to break or it's, you know, anything that's going to pop off or anything like that, but it is worth noting. And then you've got the attachment. So of course, this is the backpack that holds all the stuff that you use for swapping the forearms. So like I mentioned, the entire hands and wrist pop off, and then you can put on the laser gun, the claw, and then you got like the flamethrower here. So sort of, you know, classic stuff for the bat. And then you get some actual guns too. So we get just the standard little blaster pistol, just done up in flat black. And then you get the rifle, and this is not the same rifle that came with, or you know, machine gun or whatever we want to call it, with the comic version. So this is different, and I believe this is unique to the bat, at least for now. So this thing does come with a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different accessories. I mean, most of it can be put on the figure, which, you know, I really like that in general, but there's a lot of cool stuff here, and certainly cool stuff if you're interested in setting a scene or a diorama or photography or anything when it comes to all of these battle damage parts, the swappable energy effects, things like that. A lot of fun potential when it comes to this guy. So yeah, overall, really happy with this bat. I mean, I kind of feel like I saved one of the best for last for sure, because just like the SDCC bat, there's a lot that I really enjoy here. It still has some room for improvement. I wish that torso had better range when it came to that ball peg waist. It's like it's just there and it could be better. It looks fantastic though, comes with a really solid array of accessories. And, you know, frankly, who doesn't like COBRA bats? I'm worried about how many I might end up with. I'm already at 3. I don't know that I need to get crazy with this thing, but I want to because it looks really good, and I'm a huge fan of that SDCC version, and I'm looking forward to kind of mixing them in and having a grouping of these different style Ultimate bats. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimates G.I. Joe Wave 1 COBRA bat. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.